Hey, what is up, mortals? It's Ryan here, and before we get into today's video, there's something I'd like to say. I'd like to let you all know that we have a merch store. Some of the items in it are only available for a limited time, so if you're interested, go to the description and check it out. Each purchase helps us make more content. Now with that out of the way, let's get into the video. Life had not treated Katsuki Bakugou well. It appears you're quirkless, son. From the moment that the sentence met the boy's ears, he knew that his journey to be even considered adequate would be an arduous one. He was barely a child at that point, however, so he didn't understand the profound fist of dread that formed in his chest as the unfortunate news was delivered. He couldn't comprehend the true weight of the tears that streamed down his face as his father led him towards the hospital's entrance. The silhouette of that clinic's door was his final hope of being normal. As soon as he crossed that threshold, his spirit buckled and shattered and dissipated from within him. Bakugou didn't fully realize it even then. He tried to present a smile, tried to look up at his father and steel himself and put on a brave face. None of it seemed to feel right, so he just cried. The young man bawled his eyes out from the moment he left the building until his father settled him into bed that evening. Throughout his swollen, teary eyes, he almost thought he could make out his father mouthing, "I'm sorry," before closing the door. The shift in his existence became more apparent the next day at school. It started off as dark glares and whispers from the corners of the classroom. Then some of the more confident children pointed fingers. Some snickered maliciously, and others' faces contorted into that of disgust or contempt. At least it was the formative, juvenile variant of such complex and prejudiced emotions. At first, Bakugou sulked and hid away from their view, hoping that if he just closed his eyes and looked away, that all of it would disappear. It didn't. The insults and attacks to his character became more brazen by the day, and a newfound spark started to formulate within the heart of the crestfallen young Bakugou. As the days passed, and the weeks, and the months, he started to meet their stares with even more intense ones. Their insults were countered with his own harsh criticisms or witty remarks, or just plainly cruel and profane insults. The embers of his optimism for a powerful quirk ignited an inferno of pure, unrestrained will to succeed. Bakugou would prove all of them wrong. "I don't need a stupid quirk to kick your ass," he yelled, the schoolyard bully scoffing and glancing over at his friends. "Yeah? Prove it!" he started, before Bakugou blasted a solid right hand into the boy's jaw. The bully jolted back and lost his footing, landing on his rear. A thin rivulet of blood streamed from the corner of his mouth. "Is that enough for you? Or do I need to knock your teeth out too?" Bakugou spat, his knuckles losing all pigment from how tight his fists were clenched. He'd take on every last one of them if he had to. They didn't stand a chance. The schoolyard bullies diverged on him. At first, when it was just a couple, the young Bakugou handled himself just fine. A jab to one's face, a knee to another's gut. He even headbutted one, breaking the bridge of his nose and sending a torrent of crimson shooting down his face. Before long, however, they had overwhelmed him. Kicks and punches and stones and quirk-based attacks pelted his body, draining him of his fighting spirit. His body screamed in pain, every second growing more agonizing than the last. He glared at the sky through half-swollen vision. For a moment, he truly believed the silhouette of this crowd of miscreants might be the last thing he laid eyes on. Then, as if out of nowhere, one was struck by an object piercing through the air at high speeds. Another was smacked, then another. The object stung like a wasp and moved at the speed of what seemed like a bullet train. The bullies cried out in fear and pain, dispersing from Bakugou's battered body. Through the tears and blood, the young boy made out the unkempt green hair and plain, freckled face of Izuku Midoriya. "Are you all right, Kachan?" he asked, his face carrying a noticeably worried expression. He extended a hand, and the injured Bakugou took it. "I didn't need your help," he croaked, his beaten and broken form buckling and leaning against Izuku. "I know you didn't. Don't worry." Midoriya offered his friend a comforting smile. Izuku Midoriya had always encouraged his quirkless friend to succeed, and Bakugou used this positive reinforcement as motivation to never falter in his pursuit of strength. As the years passed, and the boys entered their adolescence, Bakugou had never stopped fighting. He imagined himself sprinting down a narrow alleyway towards an open courtyard. He'd extend his hand outwards to it, but he never quite reached it. That image of never reaching his full potential ruminated within him, and instead of dissuading him from his goal to be a hero, it fueled him. Bakugou was a hurricane of unrelenting willpower, a dominant force even in a world of individuals with great and terrible powers. Every morning before school, and every evening afterward, Bakugou would find himself in the local junkyard lifting heavy objects and pushing his body to new heights. That, partnered with his intensive study sessions in which he crammed days of work into hours, solidified his true calling, to be accepted into UA High School. If he were to do that, nobody would ever doubt him again. With his body painted in sweat and scars, he endured. No amount of blood or pain would make him stop. It wouldn't even make him slow down. This was his destiny, and he would be damned if it was stolen from him. Before we get back into the what if, I would like to say that we've got a second channel called We the Celestials Live. We the Celestials Live is a channel that we stream on 1 to 2 times a week. If you're interested in content like this, make sure you click the icon on the top of the right corner or check the description below for a link to the channel. Now, with that out of the way, let's get back into the what if. Katsuki stared down at his calloused hands before lifting the pencil and making a tick mark next to UA High School. This was it. He was finally gonna get his shot. Bakugou lifted himself from the desk and turned in his forms to the teacher. The boy was gleaming, confident and bright-eyed and eager. The teacher couldn't help but smile back. As he announced what everyone had signed up for, the list of UA applicants swelled. Even still, Bakugou stood tall in his seat and smiled to himself, satisfied with his progress and the physical effect it had on his body. When the teacher announced that he too, the only quirkless student in the grade, would be trying to get into the hero course, almost everyone couldn't help but pivot their heads to face him. Some sneered at him, some laughed and poked fun. Bakugou gritted his teeth. If you have a problem with it, meet me outside and I'll show you what a real hero can do. He had stomped his foot down and launched from his chair, one hand balled into a fist whilst the other gripped the corner of his desk. Most of the students stood down now, as they weren't actually looking to fight the waspish young man. He huffed and sunk back into his chair, inadvertently looking over to Midoriya as he did so. The Viridian-haired boy grinned at him and mouthed, "I'm proud of you." Bakugou scoffed at him, but the words meant a lot to him. At times, it felt like Midoriya was the only one who truly believed that he would make a difference. Bakugou returned the gesture. The sun waned on the horizon as Bakugou took his usual route to the junkyard. To be frank, the youth was all fired up from taking his first step towards accomplishing his goal. Before he knew it, the day would arrive, and he would shock everyone by carving his way through the competition and solidifying himself as a viable candidate. Bakugou was so fired up that he could barely contain it. Without warning, the boy began sprinting down the winding side roads and narrow alleyways before finally making it to an inconspicuous overpass. Satisfied with his burst of speed, the boy took it easy as he entered the shade of the bridge. Bakugou marched along with a toothy grin stretched across his visage. The thump of his heart was the war drum that kept him trotting along. His face turned into one of confusion as a cold, viscous material caressed his ankle. He looked down and saw a small green tendril wrapping around his leg. At first, he kicked it away, but before he could react, the sludge shot out of the sewer gate and engulfed him entirely. He thrashed, he kicked, he bit, but nothing was fending off the fiend. He dug his fingers into the liquid that crammed itself down his trachea, desperately trying to secure an airway. With every passing moment, his body waned.
"Sorry, kid, but I need to get the hell out of here. You should work in a pinch,"
the villain barked, his voice raspy and slurred.
"Didn't know that bastard was in Musatafu."
Bakugou attempted to labor out a scream, but his vocal cords were quickly subdued by the muck that infiltrated his body. He was losing consciousness. He could feel it. This was not the end. He refused to let it be. In a stroke of luck, Bakugou reached out and dug his fingernails into the sludge villain's eyes. It groaned in anguish from the unforeseen attack, quickly tightening itself around his struggling form. His grip loosened just as the manhole cover shot up and impacted the ceiling of the overpass, marring its surface with a spider web of fractures.
"Man, this city's sewer system sure is confusing,"
the bulky man announced, his trademarked grin glistening in the limited sunlight.
"No matter, though. Your time is up, villain, because I am here."
It was All Might, the symbol of peace. Bakugou was saved now, and this bastard of a villain would be put behind bars without effort. The teen could barely make out the shape of his idol before being suffocated unconscious. As All Might glassed the situation, he realized that the villain had someone, a young boy. The hero glowered and balled his fist in anger, cocking it back and launching himself forward with enough speed to cause the air around him to reverberate and bounce from the surface of the curved overhang. Shooting his fist forward, wind pressure expanded and blasted out towards the villain. "Texas Smash!" he announced, as the sheer power exuding from his fist completely eviscerated the villain, spreading his misshapen viscera across the landscape. Bakugou woke with a start, his head darting back and forth to collect his surroundings. As his vision came back into focus, the unforgettable shape of his favorite hero grew clearer and clearer. All Might's grin immediately filled the boy with vigor, and he climbed to his feet almost immediately. "Thought I lost you there. Glad I got here on time." He laughed heartily, hands on his waist and chin held high, a symbol of all that Bakugou admired, a mountain to scale. "Thank you," he paused, clearing his throat. His voice was threadbare after the incident. "For saving me." "Of course! That's what heroes do, young man," he declared with bravado. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I must go." "Wait," Bakugou said. He hardened himself and stared at All Might, who had already turned away from him. "I need to ask you a serious question." The hero was intrigued by this, but he had no time left. "I'm sorry, but I can't. I must be going." "I need you to hear this, All Might." He took a step forward, delivering the line with confidence and potency. All Might couldn't help but turn around to face the youth once more. This wasn't good. He was about to transform, but he could tell that this boy meant business. He was obligated to hear him out. "You can be a hero without a quirk, right?" It was almost as if he already knew the answer, like it was rhetorical or something of the sort. Bakugou seemed so assured of this being true that he barely phrased it as a question. He stared intently into All Mighty's eyes. Steam erupted from All Might's body. It was too late. He had waited too long for Bakugou to wake up, and now his quirk was shutting down. His body shriveled up, and as the smoke cleared, all Bakugou could see was a frail, emaciated man with wild hair and an angular face. He recoiled at the sight of him. "What the hell? What did you do to All Might, you bastard?" Bakugou balled up a fist and took a step forward, bracing himself to throw an attack at the potential imposter. "Calm down, boy. He heaved, blood trickling from his mouth and pocking the ground with red stains. "It's me." He sunk to the ground, clenching at his left side and looking up at the confused young Bakugou. "What's your name, kid?" "Bakugou Kitsuki." "What the hell happened to you, All Might?" He was shocked, fearful, concerned. The shrunken hero lifted his shirt, revealing a spiraling scar on the left side of his abdomen, an unsightly contortion of flesh and bone that sent shivers down Bakugou's spine. He physically winced at the sight of it. He, however, almost immediately composed himself to show respect to the injured hero. "Well, young Bakugou, some might say I'm in a bad way." All Might laughed, though halfway through the chuckle he started up his dry, sputtering cough once again. "When did this happen?" "About 5 years ago. Been slowly declining ever since. I'm down to 3 hours now." All Might frowned. He looked up at the boy with a forlorn smolder in his eye. "Please don't tell anyone about this, okay? I've tried to keep it from the media for years." "Of course," Bakugou replied, taken aback by this sad, anemic old man that took the place of the most powerful hero that the world has ever seen. All Might rocked himself up to his knees and stood, taking one last look at the teen before departing. "To answer your question, no, you can't be a hero without a quirk. You'll get yourself killed, kid." He paused, turning away. "I'm sorry." Bakugou couldn't help but sprint away from the encounter, his eyes fighting back tears as he snaked through the remainder of the route to his location. With a heavy heart, he pushed himself further than he'd ever been before. Heavier weight, harder targets to demolish with his bare hands. Hours and hours of rage-induced training that bordered on self-harm. It all culminated in the young man bashing the hood of a dilapidated old car, each blow denting the steel further into the vacant engine block. He stared down at his broken fingers. They twitched like bugs in the sun. His hands shook like autumn leaves clinging onto their home. His knuckles were barren of flesh and seamed with blood. "Damn it!" The scream was guttural and raw, pure unfettered emotion personified, an explosive outburst from an exponential buildup. "I'll prove you wrong, you old bastard! I swear! I'll do it or I'll die doing it! I don't care! I don't care about your stupid opinion! I don't care if I'll die! They'll never..." He paused, failing to subdue the tears in his eyes. Months passed, and he found himself exactly where he belonged. the UA Practical Entrance Exam. With a wily, determined look in his eyes, Bakugou bounced on the balls of his feet and shadowboxed incessantly, his pace increasing rapidly with every blow thrown at the imaginary target. He didn't break from his daze until Midoriya practically shook him from it. He looked over at his friend, rolling his shoulder to remove the boy's hand from it. "Don't mess up my focus," he said plainly. He stared the door down like an arch enemy. "I'm sorry, Kachan. I just wanted to wish you luck." "You too, Izuku." He didn't acknowledge him otherwise. The other students, especially a tall young man with engines seemingly implanted in his legs, as well as a girl with a short bob cut, were quick to point out to the others how deadly serious he seemed. He was muscular, more so than most of the other participants, with scars lining his arms and torso that you wouldn't even see for most pro heroes, much less a potential first year to be. Bakugou tightened the cord that held up his joggers, his eyes never leaving the center line that led him to victory. If he had to, he'd ram clean through that door with sheer will alone. No obstacle was enough to stop him now.
"Man, that guy sure looks scary,"
the girl said, her bubbly tone nearly infectious to those around her.
"He's taking it seriously. That's a good sign of a proper student,"
the taller boy added. Before they knew it, President Mike announced the beginning of the event. The kids were off to the races just like that. Jolting forward from his resting position, Bakugou quickly sprinted to the top percentile of the pack. He wasn't going to hold back, not even for a moment. If he wanted to succeed, he would have to put in twice as much effort for the same results. Lingering at the starting line would make him destined for failure, and he knew failure wasn't even a portion of his destiny. With the pace set, Bakugou was the first to encounter a foe villain. The one-pointer rushed at him with surprising speed and mobility, causing the youth to stop in his tracks just so he didn't ram headlong into the machine. When it got close enough, the boy dropped low, brought his dominant leg back, and launched a monstrous straight punch at the tread of the robot. The impact tore the calluses from his knuckles, but left the machine a mangled wheel. With it essentially disabled, Bakugou wasted no time delivering an axe kick to the side of its lolling head to finish the fight. In a plume of smoke and sparks, he prevailed. The boy continued, without fail, to keep up this pace until only a minute remained on the clock. The treads of his athletic shoes were shot. His knuckles were splintered and bloody. His back heaved sporadically as he drew labored breaths. 29 points. He had 29 points and he couldn't help but feel that it wasn't enough. Bakugou had broken himself down and started again so many times that he lost count. This wouldn't be the last time. He clenched his battered fists and searched for another opponent, but all his senses picked up was the sputtering, squealing cacophony that echoed through the streets of the training city. He looked up, and to his awe, a towering monster of a machine stood far above the skyline and quickly approached him. All of the nearby students retreated immediately, and he considered it as well. But just as he was about to turn and run away, he heard a scream in the distance. When he looked that way, he spotted a young girl pinned beneath a rock. She looked injured and unable to remove herself from the rubble. She was in the warpath of the machine. Bakugou had no choice. "Son of a bitch," he growled to himself as he jumped into action. He weaved through debris and quickly made headway, covering the couple 100-yard distance in only about 10 seconds. The girl seemed completely drained by the time he reached her. With the machine ominously looming overhead, Bakugou lifted the rock with the palm of one hand as he dragged the girl out with the other. He was drained, bruised, weary, and terrified of whether or not his score was enough to get him through, but he wasn't about to fail this girl. He scooped her up in his arms, jolting away with all the energy he had remaining within him. She looked up at him.
"What?"
"Keep your head down," he said softly. From this angle, and due to this act, he exuded heroism. A teacher took note of that. Bakugou found himself sitting in front of the UA envelope with a grim look on his face. His hands shakily hovered over it, the jitters and anxiety taking control of him for only a fraction of a moment before he buckled down and tore away at the veil of the paper to see the contents. A puck tumbled onto the desk's surface and a hologram shot forth, revealing an image of All Might in a bespoke yellow suit.
Young Bakugou,
he said, his voice soaked in bravado.
You scored an impressive 29 points in the entrance exams. This was enough to pass.
The young man celebrated to himself, breathing an exasperated sigh of relief.
However,
Bakugou looked back up.
There were factors left unmentioned by the rubric. For your heroic deeds in saving that young girl.
A photograph of the girl labeled Yuraka Uchacho appeared in the corner of the screen.
We have awarded you 60 rescue points. Congratulations, Katsuki Bakugou. You are a hero.
This part of the delivery seemed more sincere than the rest. Bakugo knew why. Just then, a pebble deflected from his window, alerting him to a presence outside. When he peered out, he was met with the form of All Might, albeit the emaciated variant, standing in the adjacent alleyway with his hands on his hips. Bakugo quickly threw on a pair of sneakers and made his way outside. Entering the alleyway, All Might approached him and put a hand on his shoulder. He accepted the gesture.
Young Bakugo, it seems I owe you an apology.
No, you don't.
I do, because I was wrong. You proved it to me in the entrance exam.
In a billow of steam, All Might evolved into his muscle form. He flashed his smile.
You are a hero, young Bakugo. A great one at that.
Thank you, All Might. But I know I am. I've proven it to myself.
My boy, I have something to give you.
He quickly shrunk back to his frail normal state, bringing a fist to his face to cough into.
Sorry, I've been working all day.
He stepped back, staring at the sky.
I was quirkless too, you know.
What? Bakugo questioned, squinting in confusion.
That's why I'm here, young Bakugo. I want to give you my quirk.
Bakugo backed away instinctively. Give away a quirk? That was impossible. You can't do that, he responded. It was rife with skepticism.
My quirk is called One for All, and it's been passed down from generation to generation to those who have proven themselves to be true heroes. I was blinded by ignorance when I told you that you needed a quirk to be a hero, my boy. It was a moment of weakness, and I know for a fact now that I was wrong. All great heroes aren't just powerful or skilled or talented. They also save people indiscriminately. They don't hesitate. They don't show fear for their own life. You did that, and I think you deserve it.
I don't want it, he replied. All Might was taken aback.
What?
You heard me, All Might, Bakugo declared. The look in his eyes was deadly serious.
Are you sure, Bakugou?
All Might stepped towards the boy, but he had already turned away and started back up to the entrance of the alley. Yeah, I am. I don't want your damn quirk. He glanced back over his shoulder at the man he admired so much. I'll prove you wrong. I'll do this without a quirk. Thank you all for watching the video to the end. Now there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. On behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank the writer for this video, as well as the editors for this video. The details will be in the description. If you're a voice actor, editor, or writer, or you're interested in becoming one of those, go to the Discord that is in the description of this video and hit up the head of one of those areas. We're always looking for more members to join us. That's it from us for today's video. So thank you all for watching, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're interested, and hit that like button if you liked the video. Until next time, peace out, mortals. Have an amazing day.